Then the kind of people that shouldn't work in a startup, people that don't like stress. Like you want to close your laptop by 5 p.m. and don't do anything till 9 a.m. the next morning. Great, don't work in a startup. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that this type of company does not need you. Like this type of company.
You honestly need to believe in the founder's dream. Like you need to believe in the founder himself and the founder's dream,
Honest,
right?
yeah,
And also for founders, please communicate your dream.
you're going to, if I was going to work for a startup, I really want to be sure of the founder themselves, if they believe in themselves, if they are very competent, and if the idea makes sense to you. You yourself might not have enough knowledge about the whole space, but from when someone talks from their own pedal, you can get a sense of this person knows what he's saying, this person understands the space, and this person is smart enough to figure the business out.
Hello,
Hey! And then you say, how are you doing that? We don't have a guest today. Our guest, slide us.
So it will be no, like don't say it like that. So when he sees it, he will not feel bad.
No,
Hello,
we'll schedule
everyone.
for next week. Yeah. Hello. You see, ask me now.
So this episode, I'm going to ask you, but let's put the disclaimer. This episode is going to be chaotic, but we promise we're not going to be like this every time. But you will see snippets of this. So, Hi Jam, how are you doing?
I slept in the hospital for the last 4 days, so I'm tired, very tired.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What did that feel like? What did that feel like?
People are sick. They rushed someone inside the hospital. The person couldn't breathe, and all the nurses just rushed to save him. My dad was basically in the hospital for those 3 days. He was admitted, so it's intensive care and everything. And I had to be with him to make sure that he's fine and everything. Both the person that is sick, the person that is taking care of the person that is sick, both of them, they are not feeling fine.
Do you know, I was about to ask you that. Did you tell the doctor to check you? Because even yourself, you need to be checked.
Bro, mosquitoes in the hospital. Why are there mosquitoes in hospitals? Like you're trying to get well. Why did you go there?
I think it's a Nigerian hospital kind of thing.
But that's been my what I've been up to be honest. But I'm holding up because obviously I have businesses to run, I have people to show up for. Just the pushing.
I honestly think that this would be the very. I'm fine, but before I answer it in detail, let me say something. And this is something you don't expect. I think you're a pretty good hard worker. And I know that sounds weird, and you did not expect this. But well done, well done. I was recently thinking about people I've worked with, and I'm so glad that I've worked with. And you actually topped the list. So this is me giving you your flowers.
Hey.
So yeah.
Blushing.
Well done.
Well done. I am blushing that evening.
So how am I? I think I've been showing up. I think that's the summary. I've been showing up. It gets really crazy. Like every single time I feel like, oh, it gets better, it gets a little crazier. And what I've realized is, or what I've decided to do is to show up. Like just know that it's going to get crazy and just show up. So I've had reasons not to show up. I've had reasons not to even deliver on the things that I'm supposed to deliver on. But I think that's the summary of how I've been showing up. I think that's the summary.
This episode is very deep already.
But I thought it was going to be chaotic and playful. It's you that is making it serious. Me.
Sorry.
But let me ask you one question. Because you just said something about you have been building and you have businesses to build. My first question to you is, what does it really mean to build a startup?
What does it mean to build a startup? So the best way to look at it is a startup is not your typical business. And people used to think it's, I just want to raise money and stuff. It's not your typical business. It's basically your business before it gets to $10 million in revenue, right? Those businesses might stay for 100 years to get to $10 million, or might stay for 50 years, 20 years to get to that level. Yeah. But a startup has to do that in less than 10 years. Like a startup has to do that that impact of $10 million every single year in less than 10 years. That's what it takes to get there. So when you think of it like that, you're not thinking, this business, can he make that money? Like, can you look at this business and say, can this business make that money? Or am I fine with just being by myself and running my normal business? So you really have to be very honest with this. And when you now decide that, okay, that business is a startup and that's a technology business, you now have to think of all the things that a typical business would do in 50 years, in 20 years. How do I compress that pressure, everything, in 5 to 10 years? That is why startup is hard. That is what it
I've always
takes
had
to really
this.
build.
That's crazy. I've had this question: are companies that are not using technology, can they be referred to as startups?
Yeah, I mean, a startup in my definition is a company that, to be honest, like, is a company that is still early, right? Like, you can't call Amazon a startup. It's a technology business. It's a business. It's a huge. You can't call Google a startup. So the way I look at a startup is like it's just an early stage company that hasn't really found its foot yet. They're still trying to make that exit happen or make that impact happen. Right. So yeah, that's pretty much how I look at it. So from that lens, it gives you a perspective of how what are the startups around me. Right. You look at all the tech companies around. Which one is a startup, and which one is it? Yeah. So yeah.
That's like that's some gem there. That's actually like really big gem, like solid stuff.
Like from your own journey, what do you think like a startup is on your part? Like you've been in this game for like 5 years now.
What do I think? Like you said, startup is different from a regular business. So we grew up learning there's a sole proprietor, there is a limited liability, there is a public liability, there is a business name. So it just felt like, oh, is it that you're building a sole proprietor or this or that? So
Yeah.
it almost feels like if you are building a business as a person, you have to grow from sole proprietorship to partnership to limited liability and all of that.
Oh,
So
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
that was something that I found. But so I never thought that a startup could be a limited liability. Do you get? So in my
Yeah.
head,
Interesting.
um what I thought a startup is a sole proprietorship or a sole proprietorship
Yeah.
business or a partnership business. In my head, for you to be a limited liability company, you have arrived. You are you're making money. Do you get, like, you
Wow.
have money
That's
and stuff
interesting.
like that? That's really what I thought, right? And also I grew up in a family where, like, it wasn't business was not like it's not the norm, but rather like we have
Mm,
more entrepreneurs in my family. So we have more
mm,
economics and all of that. So the concept of business I had to unlearn and learn, right? So if I'm supposed to determine
yeah.
or define from my experience or my journey what a startup is, would be a business that is focused on solving one problem and going to expand to other problems. But at the core of it, you are supposed to solve problems and you are supposed to ensure that you accelerate. Like, there is like you're solving a problem, that's the beginning, but this problem must like have like major impact that needs like serious acceleration of growth, right? Like, there is the emphasis. What I've
Yeah.
noticed is you have to grow. So because you started yesterday, the expectation is not that you should have yesterday's results. The expectation that is that you should have
Mm,
a result of 10 years, and that in itself
yeah.
is was a shocker for me when I started this whole journey.
Yeah. That makes sense. That really makes sense. I think most people are not aware of what it takes, and they feel like, oh, because they carry the same mindset of a typical business and come into the startup world, and they feel like, oh, you're not meant to have like mental health in the startup because no one is meant to build something that's meant for 20 years, 10 years. Just say,
Well,
"Ah."
first of
You think
all,
Elon
I
Musk
feel
has
like
mental health? You think his mental
no,
health
that
is
one
okay?
since now, since. And Mark says this,
Hmm.
but I also think that there is some sort of similarities between a regular
Yeah.
business and a startup. However, the
Yeah.
mindset is different. Like the mindset is really
Yeah.
different. Like, and I think that we need to also save ourselves the stress of calling, of wanting to be a startup. Like it's fine to just be a
Yeah.
normal business. It's honestly fine to,
Yeah.
oh, you do trainings and you sell it out, or you're selling something and you sell it out, or you're running a dry cleaning business, you sell it out, or you're running a kitchen business and you just move on. It's not compulsory you do cloud kitchen. Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's not compulsory you like and I think that's something that would save a lot of us from
It's not
distress
compulsory
because
you be a fractional real estate platform. Sometimes you could be a developer and make more money. You could just be a real estate developer and be pulling billions.
so guys, just in case you don't know, he's insulting himself because he runs a fractional business. And looking back, he's like, why? Why didn't I just set out to be a developer?
By now,
So yeah,
I'll be somewhere in the Bahamas. This thing.
let me tell you, I saw a particular picture. That picture that I saw was with somebody and landmark. I'm like, eh? Ha
Oh,
God,
he's
oh,
he's actually going to come
Simus,
in the podcast. He's going to come into the podcast. I've booked him for July actually. I booked him for July. I've
Simus,
seen his moves and it's like, oh my goodness. Oh my
It's like
goodness. No,
chessboard.
guys,
It's just like tum, tum,
yes.
tum, 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 tum,
So we're
tum,
talking
tum.
about our friend that is a real estate developer. We started this whole business real estate thing together, but he's on a whole different level. Like they're raking in over 1 billion in revenue right now. So like that is the tier that we're bringing in. So it's I'm
Is
really
it
proud
okay
of
if I
him.
ask you
So
how
proud
much
of
are
him.
you making in revenue, or should I keep short?
Please. I have VC's stress. They're watching us. Thank you very much. I'm doing okay. Barely holding by the thread, but I'm doing okay.
I want us to talk about a big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
What does it mean to work in a startup? Is it
Yeah.
getting the Lackaway bitch, lap MacBook? Is it going on trips? Is it having gym subscription? What does it really mean to work in a startup?
A lot of the perks that we see right now are as a result of, I would blame Google and Facebook, right? Like the perks, everything that everybody is saying that, oh, you're going to do, you come to the office, you have food in the office, you go swimming. All of those product managers that you see on TikTok, they say they're the life of PM. They're not around anymore. I would actually blame Google because what happened is that Google's business is literally the best business in the world. They made so much money that they didn't know what to do with the money. So they hired the best people and they kept on hiring. And they wanted to retain those people, right? Google, Microsoft, they wanted to retain those people. And they spent a lot of money, a lot of perks to retain those people. Now, it's just until a few years ago that all of these tech companies are like, come on, we have to see how Facebook every 3 months they're firing somebody. They're just like, we don't need you. Bye bye. Right. I think it's only Apple that have not really fired anyone, to be honest. But Amazon firing, and the idea
Even
is that it
Microsoft.
wasn't sustainable. Even Microsoft, fantastic, Microsoft. The idea is that it wasn't really sustainable even at that level, right? And because VC money, people thought that it was VC money that was powering all of that, but it's actually revenue, like revenue. Like these businesses that I spent was revenue that was pumping all of this. So it's fine, to be honest. But I think that trickled down to everyone that they just felt like, oh, that's the main thing. That once you join the startup, it's very chill, laid back, and everything. Categorically say that it's better. I'm going to call it. It's better to work in GT Bank or something. It's chiller than what you're going through, chicken, because the level of complexity that happens in a startup, especially as a founder, is like every single thing is happening at the same time. And you really have to say, okay, this is one, this is two, this is three, before you lose your mind. Because you can lose your mind. So you have to really, they call it compartmentalizing. You have to compact things into different areas so that you can solve them one after the other. And you have to be really good at it. It's a skill that you develop over time when you see too many shake. So I feel like that's what has happened so far. So what's happening now in the ecosystem? Like African startups are not raising as much money as they should. Businesses are dying and everyone is buckling their belts. So everybody is saying, you know what, we have to be revenue focused. We have to We have to make sure that we are making more growth. You have to spend more money on sales, because before you are spending a lot of money on just flimsy billboards, but you have to. So how do you follow up on your customers? How do you make sure that money is coming in every single time? That has that everyone has tightened their belts, so they are not spending as much. They are not hiring as much, right? Everyone that you have now, just hold them tight and treat them well, And I think I blame Google, to be honest. Google has spoiled everybody, and that has trickled down to everybody else. But now
I don't blame Google
people are
though,
more. I blame them. It's them I'm blaming. They should take the blame. I blame them.
because I
Accept.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Oh, you
I
enjoyed it.
enjoyed it.
Ah.
So it's sweet. Yes,
Oh
now
yeah,
don't you
yeah.
remember?
You did something.
I was once a student Google
Yeah.
ambassador. Yeah.
Ah man, that your chicken was mad. I can remember the I can remember the conversation about God. Even this is like 7 years after we're still talking about chicken.
Backstory, guys.
Oh
Let me
my
give you guys
goodness.
backstory. So when I was in school, Google was recruiting student ambassadors for certain programs. So I was selected, and I was under the Maps team, and that was my
Yeah.
first exposure to the tech world in a way, and what it means to be enjoying as a worker. That was the first time I ever
Yes.
entered a meeting, and the table was full with snacks. I'm like, you don't
Snacks.
mean it. And the funny thing is that when we're having the meeting, they're like, please help yourself, help yourself. I'm like, you don't mean it. So why I won't say I blame Google? You said something. You said it was Google's revenue. So if you're not making as
Yeah.
much as Google, why are you copying Google? That's one. Then I also think that
Because
he
you want to
also
attract talents.
introduced
You want to attract them.
uh
If Google
uh
is treating
but
someone that well, you want to say, how do I match up? How do I match up?
no, nah,
Facebook will try
one
their
key
own.
thing.
Meta, yeah. Facebook will try their own. Amazon will try their own. Apple will try their own, so that they will be retaining everybody. Chicken. You that is a startup, you don't want to for your hand. You raise one small $1 million. Say okay, let all the money go to instead of you to get customers. But yeah, that's what has happened.
But again, one key success in life is that don't compare yourself to anybody. Don't do what everybody's doing. So again, where will you compare? First of all, no shade though, no shade. You're a Nigerian company, you're comparing yourself to Google. 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 That's one. But I also think that you also introduced a very good working condition. Like there is that
Yeah,
part where
fair enough.
introduce a good working condition. These things are not bad, to be honest. I think the excessiveness of it was something that
Yeah,
needed
yeah,
to be covered.
very true.
Yes, it's not actually bad. I think that the excessiveness of it in itself, for example, you're not supposed to spend the VC money on all of this, right? If you're making very good money, it's okay to do that, right? I don't think everybody in a company should use a MacBook or even a laptop above a certain price, right? I don't think we use like before we changed our system, it took a long time, right? And it's
No.
just you just need to prioritize, right? But there's something that you said that really that like what they call it now that I want to like just zoom into it. You said Google wanted to hire the best.
Yeah,
You are not the best. Why do you want more? Is my question. For people that work in startups, you are not the best. Why do you want so much? Because I have seen a
yeah.
lot. I've seen a lot of like let,
This,
let me just talk about the hiring space quickly. I think that a lot of us still need to sharpen our skills, right? I know that we're in a
yeah,
new generation, a new dispensation. I don't even like using the word generation, but like people want to look like what it is. Like people want to look like a CEO and not be a CEO.
yeah,
People want to look
yeah,
like a tech person and not be the tech person. And I think
yeah,
that in itself is causing a lot of inadequacies in the ecosystem. I
yeah,
think that by now, genuinely,
yeah,
I think we should be shipping better products. You can like there are so many companies, but you can count like you can use your hand to count products that are doing really well, right? How many people still want to
yeah,
burn the late night candle for one employee? Maybe for one employer
yeah,
rather. Everybody is like, no, no, no. So I think that Google was doing this for their very like they wanted to get the best, But if you're not the best, go and be the best first before you start demanding what the best like looks like.
Yeah,
So my
you know,
question to you,
you're
or my
absolutely
next
right.
question, okay, what who is the best person to work in a startup? Like if somebody comes and says, I want to work in a startup, what would you check first before saying yes you can or no you can't?
So I would encourage young people to work in startups. I think it's going to broaden your scope, you know, especially in the early stage startup, that a company that um, has raised a little bit of money, pre-seed level, that would be really cool. Like work in a startup. What would happen is that you're going to learn the amount of things you learn, from an operations level, a technology level. It's just a lot, especially if you have like a very solid founder with you, right? If you have a solid founder. Also, don't work for everybody. Be clear on you're going to if I was going to work for a startup, I really want to be sure of the founder themselves, if they believe in themselves, if they are very competent, and if the idea makes sense to you. You yourself might not have enough knowledge about the whole space, but from when someone talks from their own pedigree, you can get a sense of this person knows what he's saying, this person understands the space, and this person is smart enough to figure the business out. So that you don't go and work in a startup that will stress you for 2 years and people will not have money to get. You don't want to waste your time in that kind of startup. So I think the kind of person that would probably want to work in a startup is someone that is very driven, right? Someone that's obviously thinking about their own future and that wants to make a good impact. And you have to be very selective. Just being very selective with the founder, with the business, and that can take you really far, to be honest. But you really have to be very hungry for your own learning purposes. Then the kind of people that shouldn't work in a startup, people that don't like stress. Like you want to close your laptop by 5 p.m. and don't do anything till 9 a.m. the next morning. Great. Don't work in a startup. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that this type of company does not need you. Like this type of company needs you to be awake in the night because a bug can happen, because a customer is using the product in the night, because anything can happen. So it just requires some level of extra, what do I used to call it? Above and beyond. Like it just requires you to go above and beyond. And most businesses that are lifestyle businesses, that are normal businesses, they just close by 5. Sometimes they will close by 3, and they're fine. Go work for that company. But don't come to a startup and expect that they're going to act that way, because their own life, or the life of a startup, or the journey of a startup is completely different. And it requires a whole different mentality around it. So you really have to be sure that, okay, this is something I want for myself. And if it's not, it is completely fine. Just don't complain about the startup. You can go and work in Nestle or Unilever or something. They're already big, so you're fine.
Fair enough. Like actually you're very like spot on with this. I honestly, and I'm just looking back at my journey, and I think that working in a startup was kind of best for me because right now I I have some level of strength. Even if getting the strength was
Agility.
hard. However, if I wasn't like there was an actual desire, if you don't desire, like it's actually not bad. I don't think it's even a bad thing. You don't have to work in startup because of the countless number of like things change so much, like the countless number of uncertainty. Yes, that's what I was looking for. The countless number of uncertainty. And if you think that you don't want to introduce such uncertainty to yourself, it's okay to just not want to be part of that. And if you're already there and it's really overwhelming for you, it's okay to access and say, do I want to continue or do I want to just leave? The reason why it is you are going to be wasting your time and you're going to be wasting the next person's time. And I don't think that's so good. Like it's just a lot, it's just way messier, and it can just be really clean if if you just really know what you want, know the skills that are required. Like I honestly think that that thing where, oh, after 5 p.m. I close my laptop, don't call me, nobody should call me, it's not needed. Or something that nobody says. Oh, my salary is coming. To be very honest, your salary might not be coming. It might not be coming. And you need to open your mind to that, because to be honest, your salary might not be coming. Because what if your founder has not raised money? So, like Jam said, like you honestly need to believe in the founder's dream. Like you need to believe in the founder himself and the founder's dream,
Honestly,
right?
it helps.
And also for founders, please communicate your dream and realize that you have like,
Mhm.
and that in itself is even pressure. You are holding people's time in your hands. So don't waste people's time. If it's not working,
You're helping people's
like
lives,
give it your
time.
best.
So you have to be honest with yourself and with them. Give it your best. Give it your best.
But they said something that this founder thing is a call. It is, and not everybody is
Or a
called,
trap.
to be very honest. Not everybody is called. Okay, I want us to talk about the emotional part of it. The emotional part of being a founder. I think that was like a lot of culture shock for myself. Do you think that there are certain temperaments or certain personality types that work so well for founders? Like, if you are this kind of personality type, you'll be a great founder. If you're this kind of personality type, don't bother.
So there's something I watched in YC, and they mentioned that they've done a study of this of different founders that were successful. Yeah, and apparently founders are different. Like one can be a shy person, do $1 billion revenue valuation company. One can be the salesperson moving around, yo, still do the same thing. One can be, they could be all technical guys, none of them are salespeople, and still do a good job. So they really just settled with, okay, founder, product, market fit. Like they just settled on that side. That the right founder with the right product and the right markets would deliver a good result, right? So if those three things are not there, there's a good chance that the business will not even work. Right? So it's not really about the temperament. Now, when you now dig deeper into that, you're now saying that okay, that's the business side, but just on the journey itself, most founders are stuck on the founder level. Like most founders are like, oh, I can only build this business to this certain point. And most times it might just be to product market fit points. After product market fit points, you cannot handle the business anymore. So you need someone else to handle it, right? Or you can only handle the business to the first, you know, to IPO level. After IPO level, you're done. You're tired. It's like, then you can start something else, right? And I think at each stage, you need a certain level of skill to manage it. So the skill that you have in roughing up the ideas, getting the product out to the market is different from the skill that you have when you're speaking to customers, trying to get money in. It's different from the skill when you now have to convince investors to give you money. It's different from the skill when you're now hiring because you have to grow. So all of these different skills are all combining and are compounding to being a good founder. And I honestly feel like a founder is just someone that should always be open to learning and should always be in a race. Like you always be, like you shouldn't be laid back. You should always be thinking of what next should I do? What should I do now to give me the result tomorrow? That is the temperament. So always key to learning. Like if your founder is not learning, that's a problem because he can't be able to grow with the company if that company is successful. And if that company fails, that's his fault because he didn't grow, to be honest. The other thing is that you should always be like it should be a race. You should be at a pace that no one else. The pace um what do you call it? There's some companies that I like. Oh my god, I forgot a lot of companies. But like the pace, when I hear stories about all of these large companies, the one thing that I like is pace. And they're always learning. They're always like, oh, do you know what? Let's just try it. If it works, no problem. We try it again. Try another. The pace is always important. And that persistence in pace is really good because it gets if everybody is tired, you just look at one person in your company that is like, yo, let's keep going. You have more energy to move. But if your co-founders, your founders are not yourself, you'll be tired because you'll be demoralized at that point. So I was speaking to even someone now. I was speaking to Queen. Queen is like our financial analyst, and she was tired. She was tired. She was like, my goodness. And she now said, what if you guys just wake up in the morning and you guys say you're not doing? And I remembered what you said at ABC. You said that you mentioned that Jam likes cable too much. And to be honest, I think I do. I think I do to a fault, to be honest. Because me, I suppose I've left people with this, but it's all good. But I was saying that, like it's the genuine love and care of the problem, the customers, the market, and you're just constantly saying it has to work, and you're just there, and you're creating this level of pace and this level of attention that is needed to get it to the next level. And I think that's really important. I really think that that's really important. But when it's not there, that's when companies die. When there's no pace and when someone is not learning, that's when it probably dies. So what do you think of your own angle?
I think that certain personalities make it easier to be a founder. I think that certain personalities make it's not the ultimate, but I think certain personalities
Yeah,
make it. Then I think founders relationship makes it easier. Like your founder relationship makes it easier. So you can't start with anybody because it's such a we commonly call it wilderness. It's such a wilderness journey that you can't
yeah, I
just
call it
jinx.
wilderness.
You can't just
It's a
you can't
wilderness.
just be casual about it. So personalities. So I think that if you are a naturally calm person, meaning that you are calm and you process information, like you have the habit of processing things, I think being a founder would help you because there are a lot of shocks. And because you are calm and you're absorbing it, it helps you um that personality works in that case, right? Because you have a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah,
If you're very bubbling and things easily get to you, where any small like you don't process and just ah you will break down a lot of times. Like you not that it won't work, but
Mhm.
obviously you learn how to do it. But in that case, you would break down a lot of times because it just feels like you're just spending a lot of energy fighting, and you're not
Yeah,
processing,
yeah,
right? And then there's also the part that if you are very lively, right, it means that irrespective of the things that would happen, you would you still be lively. But I don't know if you can still be lively after being in a startup. I really don't know. I don't know if that's possible. But from my standpoint, I've learned to build certain skills. Or I have just seen myself wake up in the morning and just be like, oh, I can now do this. Okay. But I think that certain
interesting.
personality really helps with being a founder or just being successful at
Mm.
this thing.
I think you're right. Like I've seen situations whereby if you're not calm, again, just to the context is like everything, even if you've raised $1 million, 10 million, you can still fail in a start. That's the wild thing. Like it's not even about the money. It's not really about the money. Like your company can still shut down. So you really have to be all of these shocks, whether you're small, whether you're medium, whether you're large, you're constantly having them. And you have to have some resolve in your mind that okay, it will get well. You have to be calm. So if you're someone that is too hard or too bubbly or too optimistic, you're probably not going to manage it so well early on. Like you're probably going to have plenty shocks, and those shocks are going to hit really hard. So you have to really think deeply about how to manage those shocks effectively. It's a skill. Again, it's not something that's, again, some people are born with it, to be honest. But it's something that you can actually learn. Again, like I mentioned, a founder has to be open to learning. So that's something that you should.
You wanted to ask me a question earlier.
Oh, I can't remember. But yeah, I just remember now. So I have a question to ask you, which is, I tweeted it recently. Like, founders should ask themselves, can I walk with you into the wilderness? Blindfolded. Like, can I trust this person that um, if I'm blindfolded, this person will lead me out of the wilderness to, the shining city on the hill, right? I'm curious to get your feedback on that question and that framework, right? Do you think that question is something that will cause a lot of troubles in the co-founder room, or do you think it's something that it's an opener to a lot of things. What do you think about that?
First of all, what was the feedback? Did people respond? Or what were the feedbacks? Or people didn't
I'm
get it?
seeing I just this morning, so a lot of people, I think Bright retweeted it. People liked it. But I'm still waiting for feedback, to be honest.
I think this is the question you should ask before you say yes to any founder relationship.
Just
Because to be
before.
very honest, yes, I think you should ask the question before you say yes. And you might not have the full answer, but at least you should be comfortable with some answers that you have. So you said that, but this person will lead you out. Yes, they might lead you out, but into another one. So what happens? What
It's
happens,
another
right?
wilderness.
Do you get? And sometimes you might be the one to be take the initiative of leading. So
Hmm.
the question is, let's divide the question into this. The first thing is, are you are you comfortable? Like, how are you when you're in the wilderness? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you process like really tough times, right? Now imagine when there is somebody else and you need to trust his next person decision about that wilderness place. So let's even remove the word wilderness. When it comes to difficult times, right? For example, when there is no salary, are you okay with staying and saying that, oh, if really we will not get salary for 6 months, I will do something else secondarily or primary, like I would do, I will have a side also that would pay my normal bills and be okay and not complain and not grumble that this other company is supposed to give me. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with knowing
Hmm.
that this person would make wrong decisions and it might cause problem and both of you are responsible for it, or you set are responsible for it? So I honestly think that that's the thing, because it can be a cycle of today you have salary, tomorrow you don't have salary, tomorrow your best employee
Yeah.
says I'm going, next tomorrow the VC that you said yes says no. It can just be a chain of that and a glimpse
Yeah.
of light, like a glimpse of light. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that? Like, so you can you 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 have to ask that question at the beginning, right? And if you feel like, oh, I'm willing to take a bet, now enter it. Now when you're inside it, the question you're not having, right? Sorry, my headphones. Next question you're now having is, can we leave this wilderness and is this person constantly making errors to keep us here? You know how like you can have beautiful problems in startups where, for example, you
Yeah.
have too many people that want your product, but your product is breaking. That's a good
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
get?
Lovely
But
problem.
the bad that's good problem, to be very honest. Or there's so many people using your system and it keeps crashing. By the way, just can you
Hmm.
remember that day that we had a large influx of users and the system and the cable was shaking. I'm like, what's going on? Like,
Yes,
why is
sir.
cable shaking?
I was
Why
like,
is cable shaking? And the both
it
of us
was
were
so
like,
happy.
oh yes, let it shake, let it shake, let it shake, let it shake. Oh, let's
Let me
solve it.
check.
And I said, where are you? And he's like, what's going on? We're like, they're users. I don't know where they're coming from, but let them
Oh,
come.
oh my
Oh
goodness.
my god.
Oh my
So like
goodness.
the question has stages, right? The honest question has stages where at the beginning you need to ask that question. And when in the middle, you need to find out, do you still trust this person? Because things happen, people change, people don't also change. So that thing that you thought that this person would change, this person might not change. And that thing that the person used to do or do, maybe for example, person was takes calculated decision. Now the person is just very spontaneous in the in
Yeah.
everything, right? Or you have noticed that the person hasn't gotten better from the last time you people said yes to now. Right. So I think that at different stages, that question needs to be like really needs to be asked. And
I'm going to be doing that
answered.
often,
But for
especially when
me,
I speak to co-founders. I'm going to be doing that often, especially when I speak to co-founders. Even with myself, I'm going to ask that. I'm always interested in the answer. Right? I think the answer helps um, to humble yourself as a person and just say, okay, this person doesn't trust me to lead them into the wilderness. Person doesn't trust me to get them out. What should I be doing now to change that narrative? Right. And I'm not saying that you have to be Jesus or anything, but you have to proactively show that oh, you can actually deliver. And I think that's really important.
but there's also
That
a
reassurance is
side.
important.
there's also a side I would like to talk about, which is on trust, right? You said something. This question can scatter founder relationship. It can scatter it.
Mhm.
If you ask this question and the person tells you no, it can just make your heart sink, right? However, like you said, the interest should be in the feedback. The person already said yes to you, and
Yeah.
maybe you have just done something wrong, and it is time to
Mm.
maybe win the person's trust, or just it's okay to go separate ways. To be very honest,
Yeah.
if largely trust is there. But the side I also want to
Yeah.
stick on is a side that I've been on for a long time, where you need to learn to forgive your founders forward. You need
Yeah.
to learn to
Hmm.
forgive your
Interesting.
founders forward and trust them again. So that one decision, that two decision, that 10 wrong decision, you need to forgive on, like, build the trust again. So because, like, let me give you a practical example. So you guys decided to hire somebody, the person was a bad hire, and this person was like, let's hire. And that one came, there was this partnership we're supposed to cancel. The person said, let's go ahead. They did that. You need to learn to forgive your founder forward. So, for example, when you have this conversation and the founder already knows, oh, what is wrong, don't just, this person going to fail again. It's a bad thing. I'm learning to do that. I'm learning to trust again. Like, I'm learning to, oh, this thing happened. Let me trust again. Let me trust again. Because it makes the journey very interesting. When we were in Texas, I really liked our bond. I really liked our bond. It was amazing. It just felt like I had three people, three FT guys, minus one, but
I can
you will
fight
not
for
hear
you.
me. That I could even rest on, right? I could really rest on because it was really crazy. And I think people even saw it. It was shocking to us and it was also shocking to other people. Like, we didn't know that we, like, were this close, or we looked out for each other. So I think that that's something. And founders that I really love that do this are piggyvest founders. I don't know how they do it. Those guys just feel like they have each other's back every time, and I really love it.
Nice. 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 We should be rounding up now. I know that you guys have heard our voices. This is ordinarily what we would not do, but we just wanted to try something different, have a conversation. These are conversations that I'll typically have with the DBC on the side, but we're having it publicly to see the reaction. So if you liked this format, please leave a comment. Please ask
And if
questions,
you have questions,
like,
let us
subscribe.
know. Would answer it.
Yes.
If you have questions,
Yeah.
please let us
And
know. But this episode was supposed to be chaotic, but it feels like gem everywhere and seriousness. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
yes, I did. I did. Thank you, everyone. Please see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye, guys.